What up, y'all? I am back for another video. Um, we're finally at the home stretch of Tarantino movies where we're reviewing for right now until he announces another project. His last movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tomorrow, I will be reviewing Constantine, which that's going to be interesting because I have not watched that probably since it came out. So, and then the next after that, I'll start the Bill and Ted movies. So, but other than that, now back to this one. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This one came out in 2019, and I remember my friend really wanted to see it because he's a big fan of that late 1968, 1960. He's like the late fan of the late 60s, and I just wanted to see it because I'm a big Tarantino guy. So I was like, all right. And I remember seeing this, and it was basically supposed to be about, I thought it was going to be about the Sharon Tate murders, and I remember hearing about, when it came out, that the ending is crazy, so I thought he went crazy with, how they did it, but no. This movie is just, it basically, it's not necessarily even centered around Sharon Tate. There's a sequence where she's the main focus, but I do, it's basically an ensemble film about, struggling actor Rick Dalton, who was in a big show, left, and he became an alcoholic. And I think DiCaprio really did a good job of portraying that. And then his best friend and stunt double, Clint Booth. And basically, that's really what this movie really is. There's no, it's definitely an ensemble movie. And I think this one is a bit divisive in the sense, there's some people who think this is his worst movie. I disagree. I think this was really good. The best thing about this film fundamentally to me is it's immersive. I think all his other movies are Django, Inglourious Basterds, Hateful Eight. You feel like you're in the decades that those films are supposed to be set in. But I think this one, especially, this one feels like I'm in 1969. Even the way it's shot, down to the names. Rick Dalton sounds like a name of an actor at that time period. Same with Clint Booth. I could see that name existing at that time period. Or someone having, a similar name. So I think, really, he got the detail down. And I think another criticism I heard, it's just kind of boring. Which I disagree. I think it's paced perfectly well. I didn't feel bored watching it. Yeah, it's not too long. But I think, personally, it's perfectly paced. You have really good performances. Even Al Pacino, who's not in it a lot, he's in a couple of scenes, does really well. I think he really captured that culture of 1969 of Los Angeles. I think he really captured that perfectly. And ultimately, I think it's not one of his best. It's not up there with Kill Bill. My number one is Pulp Fiction, but yeah, Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, Django. It may not be those movies, but I really think it's a really good one. And that ending is so fucking good. It's shocking. And I think watching the movie and getting to that ending is so great. So I heavily recommend it. If I were to give it out of 10, I would probably say an 8.5. It's close to being a 9 out of 10. I have maybe one criticism than that, but that's really it. But other than that, it's a really good movie. So, especially if you're a fan of that time period of the late 60s, I would heavily recommend it. So, but other than that, let me kick us off here. So the movie opens. We meet Rick Dalton and and his friend Clint Booth, who we learn that he's basically a struggling actor who he's basically relegated to playing the bad guy in westerns now because his career in movies didn't do well. And we meet Agent Marvin Schwartz, who I think Al Pacino did really good for he felt like an agent of that time. I think he played it really well. Basically, he tells Rick that his career is fading and that he basically has to start starring in Italian westerns because so we meet Clint Booth, who is his stunt double, who basically has to drive him around because due to Dalton's alcoholism, because he got a DUI. He lost his ID. He lost his driver's license. We get a kind of a cool scene between them when he takes them all. And Rick Dalton realizes he lives near Roman Polanski, which fuck Roman Polanski, but and Sharon Tate. So I think one criticism I have seen from people, at least it has to do with how they portrayed Sharon Tate, was they didn't like that she wasn't the focus. I thought it was a good idea because I know there was another, I don't know if it was a movie or if it was a series, but that was supposed to deal with Sharon Tate. And that was, I didn't see it, but I remember seeing like a scene from it. And it just like, this is disrespectful. What Tarantino did, I think was a good move, making her just like in the background. And Margot Robbie, and there is like a sequence, which I'm going to get to, which at least if you combine that whole sequence of scenes, that's a good 20-minute scene. I think she gets enough focus, and she's not like she doesn't do shit in the movie. Like, I think her role is perfect, honestly. So after that, the next day, before that, Tate and Roman go to a party at the Playboy Mansion, which is kind of cool. Which is just another even like the parties felt like parties of that time period. Like Tarantino really got the detail right for this movie. So the next day, while after dropping off Rick, I think he's fixing the roof. He reminisces about the time he fought Bruce Lee, and this is the scene that I think a lot of the people who don't like this movie, and I think even like somebody in Bruce Lee's family I don't remember who exactly it was didn't like what they did, because they didn't like that they kind of made Bruce look like full of himself, and then obviously the scene where he gets slammed in the car. I look at it as this was supposed to be like a fantasy tale about that time. I mean, Tarantino's known for doing movies like historic retellings where it's set in that time, but he changes things. I mean, Glorious Bastards famously for that. I mean, what he did to Hitler in that movie, like. I just look at it like I also look at it maybe it's I look at it as Booth's version of story. Maybe it's not like accurate. I don't know. And it was just basically to give you the background why he's fired, and we get a cameo from we get an appearance from Kurt Russell, who I think is pretty good in this as an agent. And apparently his wife doesn't like Clint. This is where we find out that he's suspected of killing his wife. I don't think we really fully ever learn. I think that's another thing. Some people don't just need to accept with Tarantino characters. It's just, they're not always the best people. Pulp Fiction. I mean, all the movies, well, not all of them. Like Kill Bill, I would argue the bride is general a good character. Everything bad happens to her. She's for revenge, but largely, like Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, I'll throw in there. You know, definitely this movie. Like some of the besides Rick, but like I think Clint is kind of a questionable guy, but you just kind of have to deal with it. So after getting into the fight, which I think the fight scene was done really well, he ends up getting fired, and then we get the scene where Sharon watches her movie, and I think this sequence is really good. Like, it captures that, the whole movie in general just captures that era perfectly. And while this is happening, Rick is reenacting his scene because he's doing a show called Lancer, and he's working with co-star Timothy Olyphant, who I think is really good in this for a small appearance. He's talking with co-star Trudy Fager, who's like this little girl, who I think this scene is really good. And basically she gives him some good advice before doing the scene. So we got this, and I think it's perfectly timed. Like, while this scene's happening, Sharon's watching her movie at the theater. There's a lot of spots, I'm not going to lie, where they filmed this movie. I'm like, I've been there. So, so pretty much Sharon watches her movie and then she leaves. Rick does the scene perfectly, and the little girl says that's the best scene he's the best actor he's ever seen. That scene is just DiCaprio's performance, like before, like that performance before she says that to him. It almost like he did channel a bit that table scene from Django, but it's just great scene. And then there was a scene before that where he breaks down because he forgets a line, and I think he even did that perfect. Like DiCaprio, I think these are the movies he should have gotten Oscars for. I like The Revenant, don't get me wrong, but I think he should have gotten, I mean, maybe not this movie, but definitely Django. But even but the scene where he was breaking down was done well. You know, he played this role really well, like the struggling actor. You feel for him because it's like you want him to do well, but he's just, you know. But then he does that scene really well. Then we get a scene of Booth picking up this hitchhiker who you see kind of throughout the film named Pussycat, and he drops her off back at Spawn Ranch where we see a bunch of other This is where I should have mentioned there's a scene where we see Charles Manson for like a second, which that's my main criticism. I think he should have been like sprinkled throughout the film. Maybe Tarantino didn't want to make him like the focus of the movie, but because I actually think the actor who played him did a really good job. Like he had that like kind of creepiness about him, and I think maybe he should have had more scenes. Maybe I'm not saying I get it if you don't want him to be in the final act, but he could have maybe done at least two or three more scenes of him. Would have been fine, but it doesn't ruin the movie or anything. So yeah, so Booth drops off Pussycat back at the Spawn Ranch. I didn't know this watching it, but I remember finding out later that apparently Danielle Harris from who was in Halloween 4 or 5 and then the Rob Zombie ones. She's actually in this movie, like for like a couple of seconds. The people there are like sketchy of him, and he wants to meet because his old boss George works there. He insists that he wants to check on George, and Squeaky, who I guess is the house owner, initially is like against it. Then she lets him in eventually because Booth basically says he's gonna force his way in. He checks on George. Turns out George is blind, and the actor, I think his name is Bruce Dern, or he's in a lot of Tarantino movies. He was in Django. He was in Hateful Eight. So he does a good job of playing angry old man. I think that's definitely probably what he's known, probably casted to be, the angry old guy. So George insists after that he and her, that the whole thing is perfect. Then while walking out, while Booth's about to go home, his tire, because he's driving Rick's car, has been punctured. Beats up the guy who did it, basically forces him to fix it. And I'm not gonna lie, this movie makes you not like hippies. It makes me not like it. I mean, I already don't like hippies anyway, but it's not gonna lie, this definitely doesn't. So after that, he drives off because they retrieve Tex. Tex Watson, is an actual. He was one of the Manson people. So pretty much we jump, because after Rick and Booth watched Rick's appearance on FBI, and we jump now 6 months, and Rick's been doing a couple Italian westerns, and he ends up getting married. And basically, we get a scene, which is kind of a sad scene because the chemistry between the two is really good. Where Booth, he basically Dalton has to tell Booth he can't afford him anymore, which is kind of sad because he's like, even though they don't get a lot of scenes together, I think their chemistry when they are on screen is really good. So, so that night, Dalton and Booth go out drinking, while Sharon, who's now pregnant, which, this is where we're getting close to the really amazing ending of this movie. Then this is where Booth smokes that LSD cigarette, lace cigarette, which he mentions earlier in the movie. He smokes that while Dalton is just drinking. Then we get a scene of Tex and then a bunch of other people from the Spawn Ranch show up, and they were talking about initially murdering the people at Terry's house, which is where Sharon Tate was, but then they decided to do something else. But we do get a scene where Rick yells at them, and they drive. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty funny. They drive off. They decide to kill him instead of Sharon Tate. Then they get in the house, and then this is where we get, my opinion, probably one of my favorite Tarantino endings, and probably one of my favorite endings, I think, that year, 2019. They arrive at the house, and Rick's dog basically attacks him. Well, before they talk shit, and then Booth's dog attacks him, attacks the girl, while the other girl tries to, and the girl you might recognize is from Scream 5. Basically, you could tell in Scream 5 they just told her to play this character. Just play fucking crazy. And I guess I can understand why. But, so yeah, they pretty much, Clint fucks up one of the girls, pretty like slamming her head in glass and shit. It's like, god damn. They, Tex ends up getting killed. I think he likes fucking Boots, like after his dog attacks his nuts. He stomps Tex's head, and it's pretty brutal. I'm like, god damn. So they kill the girl while the other girl is injured. Sable, I think the girl's name is Sadie. She runs outside and falls in the pool. Dalton gets up, gets the flamethrower and burns her. It's like, god damn. They go ham, man. I remember watching this the first time. I was like, holy shit. Tarantino never, the ending in Inglourious Bastards, it's the same thing. Like, Tarantino knows how to, end a movie with a crescendo and make things go from 0 to 100. So after killing the hippies, EMTs arrived. I think they end up taking Booth to the hospital. His wife, Dalton's wife, is in bed and I think took a bunch of pills. The neighbors notice and they invite neighbors, and this is where Sharon meets Rick, and they invite him over, and the film ends. This movie is really fucking good, and that ending is it's probably, I might maybe another video after I do my rankings, maybe you do my favorite Tarantino endings in the film, because this one's up there. This might be my favorite. It might, as much as I love Pulp Fiction, this ending is so good. Either this one or the Inglourious Bastards ending. But this one is just really fucking good. It's just great performances all around. The fact that Tarantino made you feel like you're in 1969, and even the scenes where, they show Dalton doing his show at Bounty Law and make it look like it's from the 50s, or that scene it's from The Great Escape where they deep faked his face over it, is really fucking good. I think they did a really good job with that. All around, just great film. Especially if you just like that era, I would definitely recommend this movie. I don't think it's boring at all. I think it's paced perfectly. I didn't feel bored at all watching it. I really felt like I was there in the 60s. I've not really seen a film that do that, rarely. At least not to that level. Where I felt like I was super, super immersed. You know, there's some level of immersion, but this one I felt like I was like almost there almost. But heavily recommend this movie. Brad Pitt, DiCaprio, everyone did a great job. That fucking ending is top notch. But as usual, later, not tonight, I meant to say tomorrow, I'll be reviewing Constantine. I'm going to probably try to do the review about the same time as I did this one. And then Thursday, I will review finally New Police Story. But I'm going to take one more hit and peace out. But fuck Warner Brothers. Fuck Disney. Fuck LeBron. Fuck Kevin Smith. Fuck Seth Rogen. Fuck Joy Reid. And fuck the Biden administration. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace.